morning, everyone. I'm glad everyone's here to learn some SSRS. It's actually a really fun tool to use, and its keyword is free as long as you have SQL Server. So SSRS is SQL Service Reporting Services, and I'm going to go over I'm going to go do an overview of the report designer, connecting to a data source. We're going to create a little basic report, nothing too fancy. Then with that report, I'll show you how to do some filtering and some sorting and grouping, and then some formatting options that you could do with the data inside those columns. And then lastly, we're going to deploy it to the SSRS website. So let's go ahead and get started with that. So let's just say you're brand new to to SSRS, and you want to know where is the website. Well, to figure that out, there is a reporting services configuration manager, which I have up here. This would be found on whichever server the SQL server is located at, so wherever your SQL server is. And also that means you'd have to have access to that server to get to here. But we'll just assume everyone does. So to figure out where your instance is for the reports to go, you click on this web portal URL, and this is literally it tells you where it's at, and I already have it up. And this is a new version. This is the 2017 version. I guess they've done this change for the last couple of sequels that they've had. This version 2012 is the old version, so it doesn't look as pretty as this one does. And then the report designer is basically it's a dumbed down version of Visual Studios. You're basically just allowed to do reports, and well, you can do quite a few things. So if we did a new, you can do projects, websites and files type stuff, and obviously reports. And this is what the environment looks like. On the left-hand side here, since I have a report up already, it tells you all the different features that are built in. I've got a data set that's hooked up to it for the query and the data source. But we're gonna create a brand new data source and a brand new report. But this is the environment, and then I'll show you how to deploy at the end. So let's get started. So to create a new data source, you got to know what database you want to connect to. So you do a right click. It's pretty easy. You just do a right click. You go to add new data source. Make sure the name of your data source is something maybe like the name of the database you're working in, so that way you don't get confused. But I already have one that's what I'm going to use, so I'm just going to create another one. So I'm going to say GP, and the database is 2. And then the type, so there's a whole bunch of types you can do to get connected to. I mean, you can even do, different databases. You can connect to SharePoint, various ODBC connections, but we're going to stick with SQL Server. And then to do it, you click the edit button, and then you do the drop down, and it's going to take a little bit here, but it's going to find the SQL environment. So your SQL service is going to find that. It'll take a little bit of time here though. Are there any questions while we're waiting, or is not quite yet?
Nope, nothing yet.
All right. And what I'm doing here, so I found my SQL instance, and I like to you can use Windows authentication, but most times you use a SQL Server authentication. I'm currently using the SA username and password. However, you probably typically don't want to normally do that. You'd want to create a user like SSRS or something. And the reason for that is in case you have to change your SA password, and you change it, that means you have to go into all the data sources that you have that have the SA password, and then you got to go and change them. And that can be a headache just depending on how many data sources that you have out there.
Hey, David, we have a quick question. How does this look different from the SQL Server 2014?
You broke up. Say that again one more time. Sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry about that. No, that's my fault. How different does this look from the SQL Server 2014?
They're about. I mean, there's probably a couple nuances, but I mean, it's real. I mean, everything's the same. I mean, maybe the colors are different. I mean, that's pretty much about it. Everything that we're doing can work with all the way back to 2005 SQL. It's the same. It's the same thing. Just yeah, even the features really aren't different. I mean, they really haven't changed a whole lot of stuff with the reporting services since the beginning. The things that have changed are like if you're doing like reports for CRM, the adapters for CRM, those change, and unfortunately those aren't backwards compatible. So like if you have, like for us, if you've got one client that's on the latest and greatest, and then you got another client that's not on the latest and greatest, you got to keep an older version of SSRS with the for the data sources to work with CRM type stuff. But other than that, I mean, nothing's really changed. Does that answer the question? I hope it does.
Yep, that was perfect. Thank you.
Okay. All right. So once you're in here, you have all the connections set up. Make sure you test it. Make sure it's succeeded. And always make sure you click on the save password. Otherwise, you're going to have to go back in and update it every time. So you click OK. You click OK. And right here is my new data source. And that's literally it. That's how you create it. And then we're going to create a report. The easiest way to create a report is using, it's going to say add new, and then it'll pop up the report wizard, and then you see this shared data source. We created GP2, so that's what we want to use. You can also create the data source within the report itself, but I find it easier just to do the shared data sources instead. All right, so well, let's go through this. So here, this is just like the basic, so you can just do like a quick query in here, or you click on Query Builder here, and let's say you got a little. I mean, you could use this, but let's say you even you're getting fancy, and you want to do a stored procedure. And I don't know if I have. What do I got? Do I have a good one? No, I don't have a good one for an example real quick, but you can change this up to say stored procedure, and then you find the name of your stored procedure that you want to execute. And then you just put it in there, and then you run. You have to click the run button, so it's an exclamation point. And then you have to fill out all these parameters, but I'm not sure what all these are. But once you do that, yeah, it'll be fine. It'll do it that way. But if you're not this fancy, text is fine. And then what I've got here, just this is SOP invoices. SOP type 3 is an invoice. So that's what I have here. So I've got the SOP number, the doc date, customer, and the doc amount of what they have. So we'll use this. And I want to do the tabular. Tabular, it basically looks the example here, like tabular does this stuff. The matrix, on the other hand, it's good for like if you want to do like months, like a report on various months, instead of, or I guess you can do it days or weeks. So like we could change this into a matrix report, but it's they're not as fun as tabular. All right, so this is where you do a lot of your grouping and your sorting type stuff. So let's just say we want to group by the customer, and then we want to put all the details, the SOP, the invoice number, the doc type or doc date, and the doc amount there. And then what this page one's for, in case you want to have one page, so instead of like grouping by customer, you'd want one customer per page. That's where you would put that, instead of this is grouping by customer, but you'll get it all on one page, or how, if you've got hundreds of customers, however many pages that is, but it'll have all this data grouped by the customer. And then here, this is like the easiest way of getting to include subtotals, and then doing drill down. So I'll check those, and I'll show you what that looks like. And then you gotta name this something meaningful to you. So I'm gonna say this is a SOP invoice report. And the report will show up here at the bottom, and then all right, this is the report here, my data set. There we go. Now you can see what this report looks like. And a lot of times they always do this. They always make this header so darn big. So this is part of the formatting here. So what we have to do to format. On the right hand side here, you've got all kinds of stuff you can do to this thing. We can change the color. Let's say green. Sometimes it doesn't work. Here we go. And sometimes people don't like, they want to change it to a different font. So we can change it to Arial, and obviously 24 points is too big. 8. No. And then you just play around with it till you get it to how you like it. All right, and then since we added the columns here, you probably don't like cust number. Customer. Doc date. So with the doc date, I'll show you what this looks like here. So we added all that filtering stuff, but it's grouped by the customer. But so this is what the drill down function does, is it hides the stuff. Sometimes this is nice, sometimes it's not. Just depends on what you need. But also notice the doc date here. It has the timestamp on there, and sometimes it's beneficial, sometimes it's not. In this case, I would say it's not beneficial. So we need to change the doc date. Easiest way to do that is text box properties. And you go into number, click on the date, and then you can pick this. You just pick the date that you're looking for, or the format. And I usually just keep with the first one. So then you go back to preview, and you can see we changed the date. However, now the doc amount, we got to fix that name a bit, and then you notice that this is dollars, but there's more decimals than you really want on here, and maybe you want a dollar sign and a comma, like when you have $3,000 here, maybe you want to see a comma and a dollar sign. So let's fix this. And we have 2 places on here to fix, because this one's for when the drill down is not populated or shown, and when the drill down is. So we have 2 places to fix. And the easiest way, again, is text box properties. Go to the number, and we're looking for currency, 2 decimal places, and we want to use a separator. Also note here the symbols, you can change it to whatever type of symbol you want that's out there. And then you can say, you know, show the symbol after the value instead of beforehand. The right up top here, I can't really highlight it, is what it'll look like currently, unless I do one of these check marks. Make this currency, check that box for the separator, make sure it's 2 decimals, yep. And it'll look like that. All right, so now we fixed them both. So let's take a preview, see what it looks like. So we added the dollar, something we made it only show 2 decimal places, added the dollar sign, and when it's like in the thousands, added a comma to it. All right, so now let's see that this is a little too big. Change this to a 9, and that does the whole line. Otherwise, you can do, you can change this one at a time. That'll look, that should look better on a document. All right, so now I guess let's do a little deployment. So there's a couple ways we can deploy this report. The first way is you have to make sure, there's 2 ways to do it. One way is you go over here, you click, you build the report. So now it's been built, but it's not been loaded into the website. So there's 2 ways to do that. The first way to do it is to deploy. There's this deploy button here, and it'll load it onto that website. However, you need to make sure that it's set up. And the way you do that is you don't click on the solution. Right underneath there is the report project. So you do a right click on there and then go to properties, and you got to make sure that the target URL is pointing to the correct reporting server, and then you can tell it from here the target report folder. So my report folder is project 2 test that I have out there. And once you know that those are fine, then you can deploy. But you also have to make sure that the data source that you created is out there too. So if we just tried to deploy it right now, so if we did deploy, it'll probably fail. Yeah, it failed because it can't find the data source isn't out there yet. So to do that, you have to deploy the data source first, and now that's out there. So if we went out here, you'll notice that it's right here. So we just deployed it. And then when we go back here and you click on deploy, and this will be out here too, where it should be. Mine's a little bit slow. There we go. So this is the report that we just created. All right, so that's one way to load the report. The second way to load the report is you build the report like we did here. You just build the report. And then you go into the project file location, which the location of your reports are found. You just hover over report here, and at the bottom says full path of where a report is, where the location is. And for me, it's an E, so my location's here, and I'm in my project is report project 2 test. And you have to go into this second folder here. And then you'll see the reports right here. So that's the report. So now you have that file, that location. And then you can upload it. So you can click on a folder, but since we already have it in this folder, I need to either create another folder or just load it here to the home page. So you can create a new folder. Here we go. This is their folder I just created. And now you see that this is empty. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to upload my report. And you want the one that said .rdl, that's the report. And there we go. We just uploaded this report twice. All right, so then it gives you an error like this because it, for whatever reason, doesn't seem to find the data source. So that's an easy fix. You click on manage here. And there's data sources. And it says it can't find it. So you just click on it, go to your data sources, not a big deal. And then you save it. And you can go back to the report and then it'll work again. All right, so this is one report that we just did. So let's do another one with the same query. However, we're going to add some parameters to it because let's just say you don't want to have just the SOP invoices. What if you want to know invoices and orders or returns type of stuff? So let's do that. So let's create a new report. And then to create a parameter, it's in your where clause, and instead of, like number 3, it's at, and then it's just like that with an at sign, and you just call it whatever you want to call it. We're just going to do step. We're going to leave off the subtotals and drill downs. So what you do here to test it out, you push the exclamation point and it runs, and the SOP type for orders is a 2. So that's what I did here. So these are all the orders that I have in the system. Now if you do this again, you want to do a 3 for invoices. These are all the invoices. And then the parameter shows up here. And then as you notice, it'll say, so it says SOP type here. So when we preview this report, it just says SOP. So you have to enter in a number, then you click view report. And then you get your data that way. So in the parameter to fix this SOP type, so you can see I guess doc type. And then what we could do 2 things here. You can set you can specify your values, or we can create another data set within this report and get the values that way also. So like the label here would be like invoice. The value would be 3. So now when you do this, you can select invoice, and it'll show you all the invoices, or you can select order and then click the view report again, and it'll show you your orders that you have. And then the other way that we could do this, if you don't want to, have this list here, and I always give you several ways to do this. So what we could do here is we can add a data set. We'll just call it doc type here. And we want to use the data set embedded in my report, and that's our shared. And then you can do let's see here. That's why we also kind of need to have SQL up here. So this shows us the different SLP types that are in the system currently. But then we have to also name these. So probably you could do this. I just did those two. And this is probably a little bit more work than you want to do, but I just wanted to give you guys an example of all the different ways that you could do this. All right, so then you add this here in SSRS. Now you've created your doc type, so you've got the SLP type and doc name. So then when we go up here to the parameter, values, get it from a query, we want the doc type, so the value would be the SLP type and the label name would be the doc name. So then when you looked at the report, it gives you this drop down of order and invoice. All right, so then let's change this up again. On border styles, this one's saying that it's got at the bottom there it has a line through it. If you don't want any lines on it, or if you want boxes around it, this is where you do it. You do the border styles here. And if you don't like the color gray, you can, black. And then it's black. And then you see I just did that. But if you don't want borders at all, then you just say none, or you can clear it out. And then as you notice that all the lines are gone. Make this a little smaller. Then we'll make this one a little smaller. And select a doc type, and there's your report. Pretty simple. But as you all know, these reports can get really complex real quick. But this is the basics. Are there any questions out there at all?
Wait a few minutes, but it looks like everybody is all set. No questions?
Does anyone want me to go over anything in particular?
They said you made it look easy. So we can wait a few minutes. Did you have anything else that you wanted to go over, David?
No, that's it. Unless someone else has something they want to see again. I honestly don't have anything else for today. There's more topics to talk about, but I think we'll leave those for another day unless someone mentions something.
Okay, awesome. And obviously, if you have any questions moving forward, you think of something that you wish you would have asked, you feel free to reach out to us, reach out to your CAMs, and we'll be sure to follow up with you. We can hang tight for a few more minutes to see if any questions roll in, but the recording for this webinar will go out within the next 24 hours. And just so everybody knows, that survey is going to pop up as soon as you close out GoToWebinars. So if you could go ahead and fill that out and let us know, give us any feedback you have, that'll be great. But other than that, I can just say thank you all for joining us. Thank you, David, for your presentation.
Yeah, thanks everyone.
Okay. Well, it looks like that'll be it for us today. I hope everyone enjoys the rest of their day.